Have you ever felt this way? Like you're facing a situation so difficult that it seems impossible to believe anything good could come from it? Rest assured, you're not alone. We all go through moments like this. Sometimes what we see as chaos is actually part of a much bigger plan that we still can't understand. It can be extremely difficult to believe this, especially when we're facing moments of deep pain or overwhelming uncertainty. But what if I told you that every challenge, every suffering, every obstacle you face is part of something much greater, planned by God with a perfect purpose? Believe it, nothing is by chance. This truth may seem distant or even difficult to accept, especially when suffering screams louder than hope. But it's exactly at this point that the greatness of God's plan lies. He doesn't see as we see. While we only worry about the present moment, about the pain we feel now, He already contemplates the complete picture, knowing exactly how each detail, each piece of the puzzle fits together to create something extraordinary. This message is especially for you who are carrying doubts, trying to understand the whys that seem to have no answer. Perhaps you ask yourself, why is this happening to me? Why does this difficult phase never pass? Is God really with me in this situation? These questions are completely normal. They're human, and God knows the weight they carry in your heart. He knows there are moments when it's hard to see beyond the suffering, but it's exactly in these moments that He whispers to your heart, "Trust me, I have a purpose." Our vision is limited. It's as if we looked at life through a small window. We can't see the complete horizon. We can't see what's beyond. But God sees. He sees everything. He knows exactly what lies ahead, and every moment, every tear, every victory or apparent defeat is leading you to something much greater than you can imagine now. It's not easy to believe this when we're in the midst of chaos, I know, but it's precisely in these moments that faith becomes the foundation that sustains us. Have you ever stopped to think that even the things that seem unimportant are under divine care? That even the delays, the unforeseen events, the doors that close have something to teach us? This reflection isn't about denying pain or pretending everything is fine. It's about remembering that even in the midst of the most intense difficulties, God is working. He doesn't waste absolutely anything in your life, and what today seems to be an insurmountable obstacle may be exactly what you need to grow, mature, and experience something you never imagined possible. When we think of the word purpose, we often imagine something grand, like an extraordinary life mission or a specific calling that will make us feel complete. But divine purpose is much deeper and more comprehensive than that. It's not limited to great moments or spectacular achievements. It's present in the details, in everyday situations, in unexpected encounters, and even in difficult moments that at first glance seem to be just meaningless obstacles. God's plan is perfect and goes far beyond what we can understand with our limited mind. He is like a brilliant architect who designs a solid and magnificent construction, where each piece, no matter how small it seems, has a crucial role. When we look at our life, sometimes we can only see isolated parts of this construction. Perhaps a loss that still hurts deeply, an opportunity that didn't happen, or a dream that seems to have been left behind. But God sees the whole. He sees the complete construction. He doesn't waste anything. Each detail, each experience, each tear is part of a greater plan that He is drawing with an incomparable love and care. A powerful example of this is in the story of Joseph in the Old Testament. Joseph was sold as a slave by his own brothers. Can you imagine the pain of that betrayal? Later, he was wrongly accused and imprisoned for a crime he didn't commit. For years, his life seemed to be an endless sequence of losses and failures. But in the end, we realize that all of this was part of God's plan. Each painful stage prepared Joseph to become the governor of Egypt, saving countless lives during a devastating famine. What seemed to be a sequence of misfortunes was in fact God's purpose in action. When Joseph finally recognized this, he said something extraordinary to his brothers. "You planned evil against me, but God turned it into good." What a powerful statement. This story teaches us that God's purpose is not just about us, but also about how our lives impact others. Often, God uses our difficulties to shape our character, strengthen us, and position us in the right place at the right time so we can be instruments of blessing in other people's lives. It can be extremely difficult to understand this while we face pain or waiting, but it's important to remember God doesn't waste absolutely anything, absolutely nothing. This is where trust comes in. Trusting in divine purpose means accepting that we won't always have all the answers immediately. It means resting in the fact that God knows what's best for us even when we don't understand what He is doing. This trust is challenging, especially in a culture that values control and predictability. But it's exactly in this surrender of control that we find the peace that surpasses all understanding. God is always working, even when He seems He is silent. He sees us in our daily struggles, knows deeply the desires of our heart, and is always acting for our good. God's purpose is not just a distant promise for the future, it's a living and active reality in the present, even if we still can't see it completely. This message is for your heart, so you know that even when everything seems meaningless, God is taking care of every detail of your life. Don't give up. Don't lose faith, because at the right time, everything that is confusing today will become clear, and you will understand that everything had a greater purpose than you could ever imagine.
There is an uncomfortable yet deeply transformative feeling that we all face at some point: suffering. It is one of the most powerful tools that God uses to shape us and draw us closer to Him. It's completely natural to want to flee from pain, to avoid it at any cost. But what we often ignore is that it's precisely the most difficult moments that teach us the most valuable lessons and prepare us for the challenges that are still to come. God doesn't make us suffer without purpose. He would never allow gratuitous pain in our lives. He uses every tear, every loss, every moment of silence as part of a greater plan. A powerful example that illustrates this is the story of Job, a righteous man who lost absolutely everything: his possessions, his family, his health. Job came to question God, desperately trying to understand the reason for so much suffering. But even in the midst of unbearable pain, he remained faithful. In the end, God restored everything Job had lost, but not before teaching him a fundamental truth. God's plan goes far beyond our understanding, and trusting in Him is the greatest act of faith we can exercise. Job not only recovered his material blessings, but also came out of that devastating experience with a much deeper vision of who God really is. Suffering transformed his understanding, his faith, his very essence. In moments of suffering, it's very common to feel that God is distant, that He has abandoned us. But the Bible repeatedly assures us that He is closer than we imagine. The psalmist declares with conviction, "The Lord is near to the brokenhearted. He saves those of crushed spirit." When we face intense pain, often our heart becomes more sensitive to hear God's voice. It's in these moments of brokenness that we are stripped of our illusions of self-sufficiency and learn to depend entirely on Him. Suffering also transforms us in ways that wouldn't be possible in times of ease. It teaches us to have genuine compassion because we come to truly understand what pain is. It teaches us to value the small things because we learn to live one day at a time. And above all, it teaches us perseverance. The Apostle Paul wrote something extraordinary. And not only that, but we also glory in tribulations, knowing that tribulation produces perseverance, perseverance, proven character, and proven character, hope. What seems to be the end is often the beginning of something much greater. It's fundamental to remember that suffering is never the end of the story. God doesn't leave us in pain indefinitely. Just as night always gives way to dawn, the storms in our lives also pass. What remains then is the deep work that God accomplished in us through the process, the trust He built, the faith He strengthened, and the purpose He revealed. Suffering is not the end. It's a necessary passage to something much greater. You may be facing something that seems completely unbearable now, but remember, God doesn't give us more than we can bear, and He is always by our side, even when we can't feel His presence. Today's pain may be tomorrow's powerful testimony, something you'll look back on and see as a crucial turning point in your life. God works in silence, moving pieces and events that at first glance seem insignificant, but that are part of a much greater purpose. Often we don't pay attention to things we consider small, but they have an absolutely essential role in forming the plan God designed for our lives. Each moment, each decision, each unexpected encounter carries a possibility of revealing something extraordinary at the right time. The Bible presents us with fascinating stories that exemplify how God uses the most subtle details to transform entire lives. Think of Moses, a baby placed in a basket on the Nile River, a seemingly simple act but full of divine meaning. He was found by Pharaoh's daughter and raised in the palace, being prepared, without knowing it, to free the people of Israel from centuries of slavery. To human eyes, it seemed just a coincidence, but it was part of a carefully orchestrated plan by God. The detail of a basket floating on the river completely changed the history of an entire nation. Details are so important to God that even the moments we consider failures or detours from the path are used by Him for a greater purpose in our lives. These small details can be encounters we think are casual, but that have the power to change our destiny. Advice received at the right time, an opportunity that seemed small, but that opened completely unexpected doors, or even a delay that, without our knowing, prevented a disaster. God doesn't waste any of these moments. They are part of a gigantic puzzle that only He can see completely. The question that remains for us is, are we attentive to these small details? Are we willing to trust that even the simplest or most difficult situations can have a much greater meaning in the divine plan? Often we are so focused on the future, so anxious about what's to come, that we don't notice the signs and opportunities that God places right in front of us in the present. Small gestures of kindness, words spoken at the right time, or doors that open when we least expect them, are clear evidence that He is in control. God works behind the scenes, organizing each piece of the puzzle. Even when we can't see the complete picture, we can fully trust that He is creating something beautiful and deeply meaningful. Remember, what seems small and insignificant today may be the key to something absolutely grand in the future. Never underestimate the power of details in God's hand. One of the greatest challenges of Christian life is accepting that God's timing is not the same as ours. We live in a world of intense immediacy, where everything needs to happen quickly and our way. It's even worse when we fall into the trap of comparing ourselves to others, seeing their achievements, and wondering why we're still waiting. But the divine plan operates at a completely different pace, perfect in its precision, but often difficult to understand with our limited mind. This difference teaches us to trust, to wait patiently, and to depend completely on the One who sees the future we still cannot see. The book of Ecclesiastes reminds us of something fundamental. There is a time for everything, and a season for every purpose under heaven. This truth challenges us to reflect deeply on our impatience. We want quick answers, instant solutions, and immediate results. But God works through processes. He shapes and prepares us while we wait, because often we simply aren't ready to receive what we ask for. We are like a seed planted in the soil. When it's buried, it seems like nothing is happening. To human eyes, everything seems completely still. But in the invisible, a profound transformation is happening. The seed is germinating, its roots are deepening, and at the right time it sprouts and grows, becoming a strong tree that will bear abundant fruit. So it is also with God's timing in our lives. Often, while we think we're just waiting passively, He is working intensely within us, strengthening our spiritual roots so we can bear the weight of the blessings that will come.
Subscribe to the channel because you already understand that you are capable, and we are determined to help you.
Waiting in God's timing doesn't mean passivity or conformism. On the contrary, it's an active period of learning, deep growth, and intense preparation.
While we wait, He teaches us to depend completely on Him, to hear His voice more clearly, and to align our desires with His perfect will. This process transforms us from within, strengthening our faith and developing a patience that is only possible through genuine trust. This waiting requires strength, requires courage, but brings absolutely immeasurable rewards. Trusting in God's timing also helps us better deal with life's inevitable disappointments. Sometimes He closes a door, and that hurts deeply, but He closes it because He knows it's not the right time, or because He has something infinitely better prepared for you. It can be extremely difficult to accept this in the moment of pain, but it's a constant reminder that His plans are always greater and better than ours. When we look back on our journeys, we clearly realize that every delay, every closed door, every waiting period had a specific purpose. What seemed like an obstacle to us was actually protection. What seemed like rejection to us was actually divine redirection. Always remember, God's timing is not just a test of patience, but an invitation to deep trust. He knows exactly what's best for us and works tirelessly on our behalf, even when we can't understand the process. Everything happens at the right time, and in the end, we realize that the wait was completely worth it. Life can be compared to a book whose pages have not all been written yet. Sometimes we get stuck in extremely difficult chapters without understanding why we're living through certain painful situations. However, when we truly trust that God is the author of this story, we begin to see that each page has a defined purpose, and that in the end, the plot will be full of meaning and indescribable beauty. God doesn't make mistakes. Never. He knows every detail of your life, every pain you've ever faced, every victory that made you smile with joy. He also knows the doubts that occupy your mind today and the weight your heart silently carries. But what He wants you to deeply understand is that none of this is outside His control. Absolutely nothing. It's hard to see this when we're in the middle of the process, in the eye of the hurricane. Sometimes we desperately want immediate answers, a glimpse of the future to help us move forward with more security. But God works in silence, building something much greater than our limited vision can reach. What He asks of us is trust. Trust that He is actively working, even when we can't see any results. Faith that He is by our side, even when we feel completely alone. Unshakable hope that at the right time we'll understand that everything made sense. Today, you are exactly where you should be, not because everything is resolved or perfect, but because every step you take, every decision you make, every challenge you face is leading you to the center of the divine purpose established for your life. Fully trust the author of your story. He is writing something absolutely extraordinary, something that will exceed all your expectations. You are not alone on this journey. God walks by your side with every step, even in the moments when you think you're completely abandoned. His unconditional love surrounds us and sustains us daily. Every detail that in His infinite care He plans is for our ultimate good. We need to trust in Him, even when we don't understand the why or the what for of each situation. God's will is always good, always perfect, and always pleasing, even when it doesn't seem that way to our human eyes. May you have renewed spiritual eyes to see God's work in your life. May your heart surrender completely to the divine purpose, and may you live intensely for His glory, with renewed faith and joyful obedience. You are safe in the Father's hands. He is your unshakable refuge, your impenetrable fortress, and the true reason of your hope. I want you to take a powerful truth to your heart at this moment. God is working, even in the moments when everything seems completely still. He meticulously cares for every detail of your life, and His presence never, ever fails, not even for a single second. Every challenge you face today is shaping the leader, the victor, the incredible person you will become tomorrow. Every tear you shed today is watering the seeds of blessings that will bloom in the future. Every dark night you go through is preparing you to value even more the radiant light that will come. Don't give up on your journey. Don't give up on your dreams. Don't give up on your faith, because in God's perfect timing, everything that seems confusing and meaningless today will become crystal clear. You will look back and clearly see God's hand guiding every step, protecting every fall, preparing every victory. Your story doesn't end in the difficult chapter you're living now. This is just a moment of transition, a period of preparation for something magnificently greater. The best is still to come, and when it arrives, you'll perfectly understand why you had to go through all of this. Lift your head, take a deep breath, look forward with renewed hope. God is writing a beautiful story through your life, and every page, including the most painful ones, has an eternal purpose. Trust the process, trust the author, trust that He will never abandon you. You are stronger than you imagine. You are more capable than you believe, and you are exactly where God needs you to be to accomplish the extraordinary purpose He planned especially for you. Move forward with courage, with faith, with the absolute certainty that better and brighter days are coming. May the peace that surpasses all understanding flood your heart now. May hope be renewed in your soul, and may you walk confidently, knowing that the God of the universe is personally committed to your success, to your happiness, to the complete fulfillment of your destiny. You are not alone. You never were, and you never will be. God is with you, for you, and working tirelessly on your behalf. Believe this with all your heart. Your best version, your greatest dreams, your highest purpose, all of this is being carefully prepared for you at this very moment. Go in peace. Go with faith. Go with the certainty that the best of your story is still being written, and it will be more incredible than you ever dared to imagine. May God abundantly bless every step of your journey. Trust, the God who sustains the universe is personally committed to your purpose, and He never fails. Because He never wastes your pain, He transforms it into the fuel for your purpose. Believe.
Subscribe to the channel because we'll have new videos every day until you reach your goal. You are capable.